Imagine walking into a sports training facility, right?
Mhm.
And uh, you see an 8-year-old just strapped to a bench press.
Oh, man, yeah.
Like their face is turning purple, they're grinding out a 1-rep max, and a coach is just screaming in their face to push. You would be horrified.
You'd probably want to call somebody.
Exactly. You would want to step in. But, and this is the crazy part, millions of well-intentioned parents and coaches are doing the conceptual equivalent of this every single day.
Yeah, they really are.
They just don't realize it. I mean, they look at an 8-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a high school varsity athlete, and they just treat them like the exact same machine.
Just manufactured in different sizes, essentially.
Right. So today we are doing a deep dive into this really fascinating document by Jim Kielbaso. He's the CEO of the International Youth Coaching Association. And his whole mission, his core thesis here, is that athletic development isn't just working hard. It is a moving target.
It really is.
Okay, let's unpack this. What does it actually mean to treat an athlete's body as a moving target?
Well, it basically means completely discarding that factory model approach to sports. I mean, we have this culturally ingrained idea that athletic success is just a math equation, right? Like sweat plus time equals performance.
Yeah, the whole grind mentality.
Exactly. But hitting a moving target requires you to match the physical, the neurological, and honestly, the emotional stress of your training to the exact developmental stage of the individual standing right in front of you.
Oh, wow. So you can't just copy-paste a workout.
No, not at all. Handing a watered-down high school conditioning program to an 8-year-old doesn't give them a head start. It actually short-circuits their biological development.
Which is wild because, you see those videos online all the time, like the 7-year-old doing these insanely complex, rigid footwork drills through a ladder.
Oh, the agility ladders.
Yeah. And the comments are just full of people praising the work ethic, like, oh, future pro right there.
What's fascinating here is the sheer asymmetry of the stakes. When you get this developmental timing right, I mean, you strike absolute gold.
What does striking gold look like in this context?
It means you foster an athlete who understands their own mechanics. They stay resilient against injury, and probably most importantly, they genuinely fall in love with the process of movement.
Okay, but what if you get it wrong?
When you get it wrong, when you treat a developing kid like a mini adult, you don't just waste a few hours a week.
Right.
You actively invite overuse injuries. You basically guarantee psychological burnout by age 15, and you put a hard ceiling on what their body will ultimately be capable of.
Man, a hard ceiling. That is so contrary to what most people think they're doing. They think they're giving their kid an edge.
Exactly.
So to understand how to actually hit this target, we have to look at the starting line. The source material begins with the 8 to 10-year-old bracket.
Yeah, the early stage.
And Kielbaso identifies this as the phase where the singular mission is building what he calls a well-rounded mover, not a sports specialist.
Right, which is where people mess up.
Yeah, the massive trap people fall into here is trying to make a 9-year-old's training look like serious.
Serious at that age usually translates to rigid lines, right? Isolated muscle exercises, heavy sport-specific repetition, like swinging a bat 100 times.
And he says that misses the biological mark entirely.
It does, because at 8 years old, a child's central nervous system is incredibly plastic. I mean, they are in a prime neurological window where their brain is actively wiring its understanding of gravity, of momentum, spatial awareness.
Okay.
If you force them to just repeat a baseball swing 1,000 times, you are severely narrowing that wiring.
So he uses this great phrase in the doc. He says, training at this age should be controlled chaos with purpose.
I love that phrase, controlled chaos.
Right. And the practical limitation he puts on it is striking, honestly. He says this should be happening 1 or 2 times a week, maximum.
Maximum, yeah.
Especially if they're already playing like a recreational sport on the weekends.
That time limit is crucial. It's crucial for recovery, both physically and mentally, because the controlled chaos he's talking about means setting up environments where they have to solve physical puzzles.
Physical puzzles. Okay. Like
Well,
what?
Like obstacle courses, games of tag where the rules just randomly change mid-game, activities that demand balance and rhythm and basic coordination.
It's almost like they're learning how to operate their own body.
Exactly. They're learning to decelerate their own body weight safely, which, funnily enough, is actually the foundation of injury prevention later in life.
It makes me think about building a computer.
Oh, how so?
Well, when you're working with an 8-year-old, you are essentially trying to build the hardware. Trying to specialize a 9-year-old in one specific sport movement, it's like trying to install highly advanced, super demanding software on a tiny, basic circuit board.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It's just going to crash.
Right. The goal right now shouldn't be running complex software. The goal is to build the largest, most robust circuit board possible. And you do that through massive variety, right? Like crawling, rolling, skipping, jumping laterally.
And we can take that circuit board analogy directly into the nervous system.
Okay, let's do it.
Every time they try a weird, novel movement, like, say, bear crawling backward, they are myelinating new neural pathways.
Myelinating, like making the connections faster?
Exactly. They are laying down a thicker cable between the brain and the muscles, so the broader that motor library is, the more athletic potential they have to draw from when they actually do specialize at age 16.
That makes so much sense. And there's a highly specific example in the text regarding how to measure this that I found really illuminating. It involves a stopwatch.
Oh, the racing example?
Yeah, because Kielbasa says having kids race is great, but the way you frame the race changes everything.
It changes the entire biological response.
Right, so if you tell an 8-year-old, like, sprint to that tree and back, let's see if you can beat your time from last week.
Then you are utilizing the stopwatch correctly, because you are giving them a metric for intrinsic motivation.
They're competing against themselves.
Exactly. They're learning to exert maximum effort against their own baseline.
But the moment you line up 8 kids on a field for a structured 40-yard dash to rank who is the fastest,
you trigger a completely different psychological and biological response.
Really? Just from lining them up?
Yeah, because at that age, intense social comparison introduces an anxiety that overrides the joy of movement. And furthermore, an 8-year-old doesn't have the anatomical structure to perform a true mechanical 40-yard dash anyway.
Oh, I guess not. Their legs are tiny.
Right. Their stride lengths and force production are just too varied. So ranking them is not only psychologically detrimental, it's biologically inaccurate.
Wow. Biologically inaccurate. That's a strong way to put it.
It's true, though. The metric for success in this bracket is beautifully simple. Did they move a lot?
No.
Did they laugh a little? Did they leave better than they came in? And most importantly, do they actually want to come back next week?
I love that. So if you're a parent listening to this and your 9-year-old is doing grueling, tear-inducing shuttle runs because a coach says it builds mental toughness,
run the other way.
Your alarm bells should definitely be ringing. But, okay, let's follow the timeline. We spent 3 years perfectly wiring this child's brain for movement. They are coordinated, they're having fun, and then biology hits the self-destruct button.
Ah, yes.
They turn 11.
Welcome to the bridge phase, ages 11 to 13.
It's a rough phase for everybody.
Without a doubt, this is the most misunderstood, volatile, and critical window in athletic development.
Because puberty throws that entire beautifully wired circuit board out the window.
Literally throws it out. The physical changes happen at such chaotic, asymmetrical rates. You have bones growing rapidly. I mean, a femur might grow an inch in a matter of months.
An inch? That's crazy.
And when bones lengthen that fast, the muscles and tendons are just pulled tight like rubber bands.
Which explains the temporary drop in coordination Kielbasa talks about. The text says, athletes in this phase often look incredibly awkward, almost like they forgot how to run.
Yeah, that is a function of proprioception.
Proprioception. Okay, explain that for me.
Proprioception is basically your brain's 3D map of where your body parts are in space. So stretch receptors in your muscles constantly send signals to the brain to update this map.
Right.
But when a kid hits a massive growth spurt, their bone length changes, but the brain's internal map hasn't updated yet.
Oh, so the brain is working with old software.
Exactly. The brain sends a signal to the foot expecting it to strike the ground at a certain millisecond, but the leg is now longer, so the foot hits the ground early.
And the kid trips over their own feet.
Exactly.
Okay, wait, let me stop you there and play devil's advocate for a second.
Sure.
If I'm a parent paying good money for a sports performance coach, and I see my 12-year-old suddenly tripping over their own feet and running like a baby giraffe, right?
Yeah, the baby giraffe phase.
You can't realistically tell me that a coach should just sit back and watch. Like, don't you have to intervene? Don't you have to drill their running form to fix it?
You cannot fix a biological software update while it is actively installing.
Oh, wow. That's a great way to put it.
That instinct to intervene and force them into rigid, repetitive form drills, That is exactly how you cause overuse injuries in joints that are currently highly vulnerable.
Because the tendons are already stretched like rubber bands.
Exactly. The intervention shouldn't be heavier drills. The intervention is patience. We have to shift the environment from just play to learning how to train, but under very specific controlled conditions.
And Kielbaso points out that if coaches don't understand this biological awkwardness, they fall into the trap of mislabeling.
Oh, this happens in middle schools everywhere.
Yeah.
Think about it. You have the early maturer, right? The 12-year-old who hit their growth spurt early, updated their proprioceptive map quickly, and suddenly has the muscle mass of a high schooler.
Oh yeah, the kid with the mustache in 7th grade.
Right. Coaches look at that kid and treat them like a finished product. They label them a natural talent and give them all the attention.
And the other kids.
Meanwhile, the late bloomer, who is still biologically maybe 9 years old and dealing with awkward growth, they get pushed to the bench and labeled unathletic.
But the text is emphatic about this. Those late developers absolutely can and will catch up if you keep them engaged.
They absolutely will.
So what does learning how to train actually look like for these middle schoolers if we are avoiding heavy loads and massive volume?
It looks like teaching the mechanics of human movement with very light resistance. Like you use a PVC pipe or a broomstick to teach them how to hinge at the hips without rounding their lower back.
So literally just a broomstick.
Yeah. You teach them the mechanics of a bodyweight squat, making sure their knees track properly. You teach them how to absorb force, like how to land from a small box jump quietly, which actually protects their ACLs.
So you are establishing the vocabulary of the weight room.
Yes.
You are teaching habits and focus, not chasing numbers on a whiteboard.
If you try to max out a 13-year-old's bench press while their skeleton is actively changing dimensions, you are begging for a joint injury.
Right.
The goal here is mastery of movement. Once they feel their bodies executing a hinge or a push-up with perfect efficiency, they develop a profound sense of physical autonomy.
They get hooked on the mastery.
Exactly. Not the exhausted feeling of a sweaty workout, but the mastery.
Which perfectly tees up the athletes who survive that awkward phase and reach 14 and up. This is where the training wheels finally come off.
Finally.
Assuming they've been developed properly through the chaos phase and the bridge phase, they are finally physically ready to chase actual numbers.
The operative word there is assuming.
Oh, fair point.
Because by age 14, biological age starts to align more closely, but a new variable emerges, and that is training age.
Kielbasa makes a huge point of this in the document. Training age is how many years of structured, quality movement education an athlete has under their belt.
Think about the disparity here. You might have a 14-year-old who spent the last 3 years in that bridge phase perfectly learning how to hinge, squat, brace their core, and land safely.
Right, so their training age is 3.
Yes. They are ready to load up a barbell and apply real force.
Okay.
But standing right next to them might be a 15-year-old who just decided to join the football team and has literally never done a lunge in their life.
So their training age is 0.
0.
So what does day 1 look like for the kid with the training age of 0? Because they look like a young adult. Right. So the temptation is to just throw them in with the varsity lifters.
Handing a barbell to a 15-year-old with a training age of 0 is malpractice.
Wow.
Day 1 for them looks exactly like day 1 for the 12-year-old in the bridge phase. You hand them a PVC pipe.
You go all the way back.
You have to. You build the neuromuscular baseline. But for the athletes who do have the foundation, the shift in this phase is thrilling.
Because they can finally push it.
Yeah, we move from learning movements to applying force and producing results. We introduce progressive overload, we train for max velocity, rate of force development, and true strength.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because the biggest danger for this older age group isn't necessarily poor form in the gym anymore.
Yeah, it's not.
It's the overscheduling trap. The mentality in youth sports today is that more is always better.
It is a modern epidemic, honestly. Athletes are playing on their high school team, 2 different club teams, they're working with a private skills coach, and then trying to lift weights 5 days a week.
It brings us back to cars, actually. Let's say you have a teenager who wants to be explosive. They start heavy strength training to build power. That is the equivalent of dropping a massive heavy V8 engine into a car.
I love this analogy. And if you drop that V8 engine into a chassis that hasn't been properly reinforced, and in an athlete, the chassis is their ligaments, tendons, and joint capsules,
Right.
The sheer torque of that engine will literally tear the car apart. Biologically, that torque manifests as sports hernias, stress fractures, or Osgood-Schlatter disease.
Exactly. And even if the chassis holds up, You can't run a V8 engine at the red line 24/7.
You really can't.
You can't ask an athlete to max out their heavy squats, go to 3 grueling hours of football practice, and then show up to a speed training session expecting to actually get faster.
No.
The text specifically calls out how residual fatigue destroys performance.
We really need to distinguish between muscular fatigue and central nervous system fatigue here.
Okay, break that down for me.
Muscular fatigue is when your quads feel sore, right?
Yeah, standard workout soreness.
Central nervous system fatigue, or CNS fatigue, is far more insidious. Your central nervous system is the battery that sends electrical signals to your muscles, telling them to contract.
Okay.
When an athlete is overscheduled, just running from school to the weight room to the field, neurotransmitters actually deplete. The brain literally cannot fire the signals fast enough.
So they might feel okay, like mentally, but they are neurologically incapable of sprinting at their true top speed.
Exactly. And speed is only developed by running at top speed.
Oh, so if you're too tired to hit top speed, you're not getting faster.
If your CNS is fried from a heavy leg day and a 3-hour practice, you aren't training for speed. You are just doing exhausting high-speed jogging.
Wow.
You are literally teaching your nervous system to be slow.
This raises an important question. How on earth do we communicate this to parents and athletes? Because Kielbasa notes that everyone just wants to add more to the plate. Stronger, faster, more reps, more hours.
It requires radical honesty from coaches. I mean, they have to sit down with a soccer player and say, look, if you want to dramatically increase your lower body strength this offseason, your legs will be heavy.
Right.
Your on-field agility will temporarily drop. And you have to be okay with that trade-off for the next 8 weeks.
Time to pick a priority.
We have to teach them that stacking small, targeted adaptations consistently over time is vastly superior to this manic, year-round over-specialization.
We also have to break the illusion that strong automatically means athletic.
Yes, yes.
Just because a high schooler can bench press a house doesn't mean they possess the mobility, the reactive speed, or, the cardiovascular engine to actually perform in the fourth quarter.
Which brings us to the ultimate synthesis of Kielbasa's work. Athletic development is an intricate sequence of falling dominoes. Every single physiological adaptation builds strictly upon the one that preceded it.
So let's trace the cascading failures.
Let's do it.
Let's say a parent or coach completely ignores this moving target and tries to hack the system. What happens if you skip that early 8 to 10-year-old controlled chaos phase?
If you bypass the broad movement library and go straight to early sport specialization, you produce stiff, robotic athletes.
So
they might have a great baseball swing at age 10, but by age 15, they have no spatial awareness or physical adaptability when a play breaks down on the field.
Okay, what if you rush the heavy strength training too early during the awkward 11 to 13 bridge phase?
You completely bypass the critical window for coordination and proprioception. You end up cementing faulty, awkward movement patterns under heavy loads.
Which is bad.
Very bad. That almost always guarantees chronic joint issues or spinal injuries before they even graduate high school.
Man. And if you ignore structured progressive overload and recovery in the 14 and up phase,
you artificially cap their performance potential. They just hit a wall. Their CNS fries, they plateau, and the compounding frustration leads to the saddest outcome of all.
Which is?
They just quit sports altogether because their body constantly hurts and they aren't improving.
That is sad. So what does this all mean? If you're listening right now and you're a parent driving your kid to club practice, or maybe a coach sketching out a summer program, or just someone fascinated by the science of human adaptation,
yeah,
you have to change the questions you're asking.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it requires shedding the ego. I mean, we are culturally conditioned to ask validation questions.
Like what?
Like, how much weight did they put on the bar? Did they throw up from the conditioning test? Did we win the 12 and under weekend tournament?
Right. Those questions satisfy the adults, not the developing athlete.
Precisely. Kielbasa urges us to ask developmental questions instead.
Okay.
Ask, is this specific biological stressor appropriate for their nervous system right now? Are they actually improving their movement quality?
Yeah.
And most critically, will the training we are doing today lay the brickwork for them to be healthy, explosive, and in love with movement 3 to 5 years from now?
Long-term physical literacy beats short-term hardware every single time.
Every time.
I mean, it doesn't always make for a viral social media post of a kid doing a terrifyingly heavy deadlift. But when you hit this moving target correctly, the result is an athlete who moves beautifully, stays resilient, and reaches a potential they didn't even know they had.
It really is a blueprint for thriving. And, we've spent this entire deep dive analyzing how crucial it is to respect these biological windows in youth,
Right.
allowing for controlled chaos and awkward exploration before demanding measurable results in sports. But I want to leave you with a final thought to consider about your own life.
Oh, okay. Let's hear it.
Think about how we treat ourselves as adults when we attempt to learn a complex new cognitive skill, like a new language or a new hobby.
Yeah, we're pretty hard on ourselves.
We are. Do we allow ourselves that unstructured neurological window to just play, to look foolish, and to slowly wire the circuit board?
Usually not.
Right. Or do we immediately start chasing numbers, stressing over measurable progress, and comparing our day one to an expert's day 1,000?
Wow.
Because if we do that, we are stunting our own long-term potential in the exact same way a bad coach ruins a young athlete.
That is a staggering parallel.
Yeah.
Are we treating our own adult brains like the exact same machine we expect to be perfectly efficient right out of the gate?
Definitely something to mull over the next time you pick up a new instrument or try to learn a new language. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into Jim Kielbaso's athletic development blueprint. We'll catch you next time.